New Testament reading today comes from Matthew chapter 2, starting with verse 1. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem, in Judea," they replied. "For this is what the prophet has written." This is from Micah chapter 5, verses 2 and 4. "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. This is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God. Why are you here? I'm really asking. I really want to know. Why are you here? I really, at least maybe not out loud, but I really want you to think about, why are you here today? I mean, you could be anywhere, couldn't you? Even if you're tuning in on YouTube, the question still stands. You could be doing lots of things. You could be scrolling lots of things, watching lots of things, but here you are. Why? Why? What do you hope to get out of this today? What do you expect to take away with you after this time? I want us to give it some thought. I want us to really think about these questions. Why am I here? What am I looking for? What do I really want? The reason I want us to get a little deep and introspective is there is a big difference between walking into a place and killing time, going through the motions, or going into a place with a goal in mind, a purpose, looking for something. I have never particularly liked the old inspirational quote that says, "Shoot for the moon, and maybe if you miss, you'll still reach the stars." I know I kind of butchered it, but it's been attributed to so many people. I think Norman Vincent Peale, Neil Armstrong, I mean, a few others over the years. Who knows who really said it? But it kind of misses a little bit of physics. I don't know. There's some issues I've got with it, but it does make a point though. Have a goal in mind. Don't just wander around. Have some high expectations. Know what you want to get out of this time that you have taken when you could have been doing so many other things. Reach for the stars. Shoot for the stars. Speaking of stars and people with very high expectations, let's dig into this old and very familiar story, I'm sure, about wise men and a bad king and what they can teach us about making sense of that first Christmas and how it can and should, I hope, shape our expectations of what's to come. It's a story about some men who had time and money and education. Some of them were wise, one of them was not. You can't teach wisdom, it turns out. The Magi, or the wise men, were from the east. If they came from Parthia or Persia, modern Iraq and Iran today, then they would have traveled something like 800 or 900 miles. The journey would have taken them months. Now, they weren't kings. Really, nobody thinks they were kings. No scholars go that direction. The Greek word translated as wise men is magian. It refers to an astronomer or a priest or a magician. These past few weeks, we walked with the people of Israel through exile and return, and you may remember that they were exiled to the Parthian Empire, the Persian Empire. So tradition holds, and this is not scholarly, so please do not come at me for this. This is just tradition, but it's possible that some of the Israelites who settled there integrated into that society. Actually, that's very likely that they did donate some DNA there, as it were, and that the tradition says that maybe these magi priests had descended somehow from the tribe of Levi, the priestly tribe of Levi. It's a stretch, but it's not impossible. But here are a couple of stretches that we have taken so literally that it literally shapes our image of Christmas and our nativity scenes, first of all. And this one's pretty obvious. The Magi took months, if not years, to get their first glimpse of Jesus. So they wouldn't have been at this scene that we've set on the altar today. The star appeared, they observed it, and then they packed their things and started on a very long journey. And when they found Jesus and Mary, and I'm sure Joseph as well, even though he's not mentioned in this story, he gets left out a lot. They weren't in the stable. They were living in a house in Bethlehem by this time. No animals were sniffing at the manger, no shepherds, no angels, not even a drummer boy. And we have no idea how many wise men or magi actually made this trip. Could have been three, one for each gift. Could have been 12, one for each tribe of Israel. We go with three at least, so we don't have to imagine anybody showing up empty handed, as if traveling 900 miles and bowing down to worship a toddler would not have been impressive enough. 900 miles, y'all. For what? Why did they make this trip? What did they hope to get out of it? What were they looking for? Well, if we have their origin right, I'd like to dig into the history of that just a little bit. And at that time in their homeland, the Parthian emperor was named Phraates IV. He ruled from 37 to 2 BC, and he had a habit of killing all the male relatives that he could find. They were about out of options for a ruler to succeed old Phraates obvious reasons. Could they have been following the star in hopes of not just finding a king, but maybe their next king? Could the king of the Jews that they were looking for be a king that would expand the Parthian Empire westward into Roman held territory? Again, a stretch, but not impossible. There had to be something in it for them, right? I do find it, though, interesting. And this is where I really got stuck in the story this time. Yeah, I've read it so many times, but this is what hit me. They traveled so far and got so close. And around 5 or 6 miles from the destination, they diverted into Jerusalem. They were looking for a future king, and they had followed that star so far and so long and to such great success, and they got sidetracked somehow that close to the goal. Think about it. What could have happened to take them off course when they had made it that far? Don't you just bet as they neared the city of Jerusalem, this caravan of rich and interesting looking foreigners started to interact with the locals, answering questions about what brought them this far as they watered their camels at the local wells. Don't you know the desert and mountains and wilderness gave way to beaten paths and then marked trails and finally to paved Roman roads that still stand today, many of them. And it's interesting to me. I think the easiest and best looking roads probably wouldn't lead them into Bethlehem, would they? Straight into that ancient city that was the center of power and wealth in the region. They came seeking a king, and locals at those wells would have pointed toward Jerusalem and said, "Oh, the king, you'll find him over there." I doubt they said it with a smile because nobody much like their current King Herod, and we'll get to that more in a minute. So 6 miles or so, an easy morning's walk from their destination with less than 1% of the journey to go. They stopped following the star and veered off course. Let's pause here in the story to talk about how easy it was to divert those men who were so wise that it was literally part of their name, their identity, their title in our minds. But even still, so close to the goal, they took the old Bugs Bunny left turn at Albuquerque. So close. We get that though, don't we? We have gotten close, but failed to get where we wanted to go. Haven't we done that a few times in our lives? It's almost New Year's Eve. A lot of us set out on our own personal journeys around this time of year. Clock and the calendar, they reset, and it's going to be all the motivation we need, right? We'll shed bad habits, unwanted pounds, harmful addictions. We're going to pick up healthy habits and gain muscle and stamina. We're going to be addicted to the right things this year. The things that'll make us wiser, stronger, and closer to God, right? We might even commit to make that journey with others. Say it out loud so that people will hear us. Find others who want to join us, and it will go well for a while, won't it? But how long does it last? I've heard the most frustrating and fragile part of a weight loss journey. Let's not kid ourselves. I haven't heard this. I've been there, done that on this. The most fragile part of a weight loss journey is when you have made so much progress towards your goal that you let down your guard, right? And you think, I've got this. I can eat a little bit of that. It won't hurt anything. My great granddaddy used to say, oh, you won't. It ain't going to hurt you any more than a little bit. And that just plays in my mind as I scoop it up. We relax, we cruise. It can't hurt to take a few days off, right? Skip a few workouts. Surely that won't undo all the good that we've done. I feel like the same goes for our spiritual journeys, honestly. We decide we're going to read the Bible all the way through. And if we make it through Leviticus, and if you make it through Leviticus, I'm proud of you. I mean, because that is a slog, y'all. Even I, I get paid to read the Bible, y'all. It's still not fun to read Leviticus. And First Kings and Second Kings. Well, let's be honest, they sound a whole lot like First Samuel and Second Samuel. Oh, we read all the way through the major prophets and the minor prophets, and it gets a little bit repetitive because it's, come on, when are you going to figure this out? You thick-headed Israelites, you've heard it. You get warned, you straighten up. Can you just keep it straight for a minute? My gosh. And then we get into the Gospels. I mean, that smooths out. I don't care that you're reading to the Gospels, and then you get into Paul's letters, and then you get a little bit of that prophet thing again where you're like, can y'all just get it together, love each other? I mean, it had to be frustrating to write all that stuff over and over again for Paul. But we're so close to the end when we get through Paul's letters and we get through Hebrews, and we're just so close to the end. And then what do we get to? Revelation. Y'all, the only time I have ever heard a preacher cuss in church was inviting people to a Bible study on Revelation. He said, with a lot more color than I'm going to say, that if you wanted to come join that Bible study, then you could come and figure it out with him because he didn't know what it meant either. Needless to say, Alan and I did not attend his study. Sounded like the blind leading the blind to me. I didn't need that. But to be honest, even in seminary, we did not linger on the content of Revelation. The professors didn't mind giving background, historical content, the context, authorship details, but ask them about the horsemen. Ask them about the scarlet beast. Ask them about sea monsters or locusts with human faces, and they would refer you back to the scholarly text that tells about where John was and what John was probably doing. They don't want to talk about that stuff. Go to something easier to understand. We get so close to the end, and Revelation can get us. Or we decide to pray every day. Oh, man, this one's going to be so easy. We talk to God all the time anyway, right? We're plan a time, we plan a place, and we start out strong, but then maybe we travel. Maybe we have an early doctor's appointment. Maybe we're just extra tired and we miss a day. Then maybe a day or two. We get casual then about the time and the place. And then we decide praying on the fly is better than not praying at all, right? When we join the church, we promise to pray and grow and give and serve and witness to others about our love of Jesus. I really believe that this church takes those vows seriously. I honestly don't think I've seen a church that takes these vows more seriously than this one. But I bet you every one of us in this church can say, I've been sidetracked a time or two. I've been so close and I got diverted. Maybe for the same reason The wise men got off course. We want to walk the easy, well worn path. We start to listen to the chatter of media or social media, getting quiet, focusing on God, and we just drift. What a blessing it is that God helps us know when we are off course, and He does. We have the Holy Spirit to whisper or nudge or even hit the head if necessary. When we're seeking God, Jesus said this: we will find Him. It is not a maybe, it's not a possibly, it is if you seek Him, you will find Him. Those are red letter words, y'all. Red letter words, and they are a promise. So when we take that left turn at Albuquerque, when we pop up out of that rabbit hole and we've been running too long and we stop and look around, we just know this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. These are not the people I'm supposed to be hanging with. That's what happened to the wise men. I imagine they knew, but in case they didn't have complete clarity on the evil that was Herod, God warned them in a dream not to go back to him. I love this. They were not priests of Israel. I don't care what the tradition says. I'm not buying all that. They were not believers in or praying to our God. They were astrologers, following a star and looking for answers. They had no idea who they were really looking for, but they were searching for the God who was searching for them, and God pointed them to Jesus and away from Herod. What a comfort to know that God speaks in dreams and in so many other ways to those who seek Him, even if they aren't even sure what they're looking for. That's good news for some of us seekers out here. I hope you're listening. Let's circle back and talk for a minute about this king, Herod the Great. You know those kind of people that give themselves their own nickname? Don't you know Herod is the one who gave himself that nickname? And I'm betting he's one of those guys that he would cut your head off if you didn't use it. So you were going to use that nickname, Herod the Great. The Magi came to him seeking the one who had been born king of the Jews. And you might see how this would upset the current king of the Jews. It might be really helpful to know one other small detail. Herod was not the rightful king of the Jews. He wasn't born to be a king. He was appointed king, and not even by his own people. He was appointed by the Romans who were occupying the region at that time. Let me share a few interesting facts about Herod. He came to power during a tumultuous period of Roman history. He backed Antony and Cleopatra. You've heard of them, right? He backed them in the war against Octavian, and he backed the wrong side on that one. Octavian won. Octavian would later be known as Caesar Augustus. You'd think that would be the end of Herod, right? But this man was such a politician. He saved his life by pledging allegiance to Octavian. He divorced his first wife, Doris, and then he got engaged to Mariamne, the granddaughter of the high priest, to try to give himself some Jewish cred. Then he executed both of them. He had so many people who were close to him killed that Octavian, who by then was called Caesar Augustus, said he would rather be Herod's pig than his son. Herod was not great. Herod was not good. Herod had no intention of doing what he told the Magi that he would do. He had no intention of worshiping the one who had been born king of the Jews. In fact, he had every male child under the age of 2 killed to make sure no one else would worship him either. An unimaginable and, in the end, completely ineffective tragedy. I asked you a few questions at the beginning of this message. Why are you here? What do you want? And what are you expecting to get out of this? What are you looking for? I'm sure Herod wanted answers to those questions. Why would these men travel all this way? Why go to this much trouble? Being a king in name only, whose power came through violence and fear, I'm sure he feared violence, loss of power. Maybe they were there to align with this new king and usurp his power. Herod wanted to find Jesus more than anyone in the world, but he wanted to kill him, to remain in control of his own life and his own destiny and keep Jesus out of it. He couldn't have imagined what the Magi would do. Honestly, it should strike us unbelievable as well. Matthew was not one in his gospel, in his writings, to exaggerate or overemphasize. So I believe we can take this quite literally. They showed up They bowed down. They worshiped him. This child, not even 2 years old, limited vocabulary, not even potty trained. The wise, wealthy, wonderful men who had traveled hundreds of miles made that short walk from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. And when they saw him, they knew, they just knew. Isaiah 60 begins like this: Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. This is why we call them kings, because of this Isaiah prophecy and how we put this together. The light has come. The kings, the magi, have arrived. After they worship and unpack the camels, we hear echoes of the promise made in Psalm 72, verse 10, as they lay their gifts before Jesus. It reads, The kings of Tarshish and of distant shores will bring tribute to him. The kings of Sheba and Saba will present him gifts. Gold for a king, frankincense to anoint the high priest, and myrrh and embalming spice pointing to the sacrifice to come. Not the most practical gifts for a toddler, but I'm sure these resources helped this little family as they made their escape to Egypt. The wise men gave their worship, gave their gifts, and left. They just left. They asked for nothing. They took nothing with them but a story. Don't you wonder how this encounter affected the rest of their lives? Don't you wonder about the story told when they made it home? I guarantee you one thing: this encounter with Jesus shifted something inside of them. They found what and who they were looking for, and they had no doubt about it. So, to close, I'll ask you the questions I asked in the beginning again. Why are you here? Why'd you make this journey? What do you want, really? What do you really want out of this? And what or who are you looking for? You didn't follow a star to church this morning, but as the last verse of that song that we've been singing throughout Advent goes, this child born on Christmas brought goodness and light. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the goodness and light that have been drawing you in, but look closer. Seek, really seek God. Seek God like the wise ones did 2,000 years ago. You don't have to pack up a camel, you don't have to travel far. The one you seek is here. The one you seek is seeking you. The choice is yours. You can pull a Herod and decide to maintain control of your own life, refuse to surrender. I mean, to be honest, finding Jesus does change things. And you will be changed too. Jesus is a threat to your status quo. So if you really like the way things have been going and you don't want to be bothered, but that's Herod thinking. And wouldn't we rather be wise? Wouldn't we rather find the source of that light, not so that we can extinguish it, but so that we can see ourselves in the light of Jesus Christ? Be transformed by that goodness we find here and carry that love we've met in this place when we leave this place. The wise still seek him, want to know him, expect great things from him.